and fan impact, home field impact, especially defensively, is massive in that.
Hello and welcome to episode 207 of the COVERTWO podcast. I love doing the intro in English. Today I'm joined as always by Simon.
Hi.
And of course, pre-season, it's time to talk about bets. Andre Simone, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, congrats on over 200 episodes. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, we want to talk about bets today, about betting, and in terms of that, we got the draft wizard, but also our frequently present betting expert, Andre, with us, who will guide us through some bets, some futures, and we'll also look at week 1 today. Maybe talk a little bit general about this season. And I believe, Andre, for those who don't know you, can you introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing football content for almost 10 years now. I started off actually doing Italian stuff, which is where we've really developed that bond, right? We're kind of European brothers, just trying to push the sport more across the Atlantic, which is I just love that you guys keep doing that in Germany, and some of my friends that I started off with are still doing stuff in Italian, which I love. But more relevant to this show, what I've been doing the last 5 years is working for this company locally, DMVR. You can find us online at thedmvr.com or Twitter, DMVR Sports. And we cover all sports here in Denver, including the NFL, including the college teams. So I do a lot of draft stuff, a lot of film analysis. That's how I got my start. So I'm really tapped into the rosters and the schemes. But something I started doing maybe a year into my experience at DNVR, back then it was BSN Denver. So maybe 4 years ago was our boss used to have a bookmaker offshore in the Bahamas who taught him these 2 different metrics that are very valuable for sports betting, and they can be applied, football betting specifically. They can be applied a variety of ways. So I was writing content and doing a weekly podcast on NFL betting against the spread. And I also had a friend, an Italian friend, help me out and use those same metrics and algorithms to some of the college football stuff. Then I took a year off. I was focusing more on other stuff, always kind of analytical statistics. So always kind of improving my knowledge of how to quantify and handicap player performance. And then within the last year and a half, sports betting has become legal here in Colorado, which I know in a lot of places like Italy as well. In Europe, this has been the case forever, but this is only kind of a recent development here in Colorado. And one of our biggest sponsor is a sports book here. They're called DraftKings. They're amazing. There's all sorts of deals because it's a very competitive market now that everyone is able to do this. So there are a ton of different companies, tons of different deals. And I've been doing Monday through Friday, a daily sports betting podcast. It's a lot of stuff on our local teams, but when NFL and college football season comes around, we're talking about everything. So that's kind of the general overview on my experience in football and football betting.
All right. I already told Andre today we'll focus on the present and recommend, if you are interested in the basics on what Andre recommends in terms of betting, we recommend to you to go back and listen to the episode around this time last year. Great tips for betting and the season. But before we start going into this year, how did last season shape out for you? Did you do well?
Yeah, so the metrics did well, especially come playoff time, and I almost didn't believe them because I didn't believe in Tom Brady. I just thought the Chiefs were too good, but the numbers over the span of the year kept saying, the Chiefs not being able to blow teams out should be a concern. While
Yeah.
we as analysts were saying, well, look, they have the better quarterback with the metrics never quite account for how much of an advantage that is. And they'll be able to turn it on when the time matters. So that's the thing. You always got to pay attention to your statistics and metrics. But I'm looking at it right now. We had a pretty good success. Cleveland was a big progression candidate for the metrics, and obviously one of the big surprises last year. The numbers also really liked the Chargers, who performed well against the spread, but didn't really outdo their win total. And Tampa Bay and Washington were the two teams where the metrics really looked good. While on the other hand, as far as regression candidates, teams that my numbers thought would not perform as well as we thought going into last season, San Francisco was a big win. And I'm trying to see here. Green Bay was a big loss. The numbers really thought Green Bay was going to regress last year, and that didn't happen in the slightest, as we all know. So that's just kind of an overview on a week-to-week basis in the NFL. I didn't do that great. I probably broke 500, which is
Okay.
why it's so nice to have these metrics. But yeah, last year was kind of a wacky season. I probably did better in college football, especially
Yeah.
come playoff time, than I did in the NFL, where I won and I lost, kind of even Steven.
We feel you. Last year we had about 44% winning percentage. It was kind of weird with all this COVID stuff, but the bet of the week will be back. And yeah, let's talk about the future and hopefully better
Yes,
better
better
progression in that
outcomes. Yeah,
field.
absolutely.
Did you have to do some major adjustments in your metrics for this year, or did you change anything?
No, I haven't changed anything in my general projections for win totals over the entire season.
Hmm.
Last year, I was playing around with the typical three home 3 point home field advantage that you account for in the spread, and especially for teams like Seattle, Kansas City, Denver, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, um, teams that really have an overwhelming home field advantage. Where some years I've even given some of those teams 4 point home field advantages. That was a constant adjustment. And the other thing I noticed last year was usually by week 3, everyone's overreacting to what's happened.
Hmm.
And then week 4, things seem to kind of smoothen out and happen a bit more as you'd expect. I think that happened later last year. I think that happened closer to week 5, 6. And so I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to be careful about this year. And one thing I don't have any metrics for totals, but it's something I really want to dial into now that we get closer to the season. Last year, the overs were just hitting at an overwhelming rate. It was just, the scoring the first month and a half was out
Yeah.
of control. And that's been the case since the new NFLPA agreement, where we have fewer padded practices and fewer two-a-days. So it's harder for the defense, where all 11 need to really be on the same page. Tackling, timing needs to be perfect to really perform at its best. Defense has really suffered, and without rookie mini camps, regular training camps, preseason, the adjustment happened a lot later last season as well. So I've got my eye on that. But no, as far as actually adjusting the calculations this year, I'm going to try and go back to more of a standard how things were prior to 2020.
Okay, so for you, COVID, it's getting better, but it's still kind of floating over our heads.
Yeah.
I believe the biggest change is having a season with fans in those stadiums. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fluid situation. We'll see, you never know with the fall coming, schools opening back up. I think that could definitely impact fan attendance. But we'll see what happens and we'll adjust accordingly. I do think that the rash of last second IR additions and stuff like that we saw last year, which really made it almost impossible to stay on top of all the one-on-one matchups that would really impact the game and stuff. Those should be far fewer because a lot more players are vaccinated, so that should be a massive advantage. So I'm hopeful that the impact is less, but it's one of those where I'm just gonna have to go week by week and adjust accordingly as things change.
Will home field advantage be back? Because that's
one
aspect we had last year. It did not matter as much as in the past, having no fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge difference, especially in a sport where a 10-point lead as a bettor might feel like, oh, they were never in the game. But that comes down to a handful of plays. It comes down to one possession, determining the spread one way or the other. And fan impact, home field impact, especially defensively, is massive in that. I mean, it literally impacts the game and how you have to use timeouts, how you have to adjust your silent signals in certain places, how you have to adjust, the way you call audibles and stuff like that. And it really is going to make a difference, and it's going to lessen your margins on your success on third down and being able to prolong drives. So yeah, I think that should have a huge impact this year, as long as that can be maintained throughout and capacity can be a decent amount. Like just this weekend we had the English Premier League come back, and to me, with fans, they're playing so much different. Like
absolutely, yeah.
There's been all this talk in the last 2-3 years of modern football, and it's so fast and you press real high. If you watch the EPL last year, sure, that's still the style they're playing, but it wasn't at that same intensity and level in years past. And I think fans being back makes such a huge difference in that. And I think we'll see that. We should definitely see that in the NFL as well.
We have this extra game this year, 18 weeks, 17 games. And there's one more possibility to bet, which is always a good factor. But also teams maybe will be more tired. Favorites will maybe have an extra game where they can relax before the playoffs. Do you think this fact will be important this year, considering betting in the later weeks of the season?
Could be very much so, and it could be the reverse, where more teams are fighting for playoff seeding and spots, because it's more wide open with that extra game, and there are more possibilities coming in later. Yeah, we'll see. It's very new, so it's going to be really interesting, and it's been quite interesting trying to factor that in while calculating these season totals, because I mean it's a new frontier. We've never done this before, so we'll really see.
Yeah, definitely. We saw last year that offenses were thriving while defenses had problems adjusting with all your mentioned missing off season and stuff. Do you think this year will be a bounce back year for defenses, or will the trend continue of offenses going ham, especially at the start of the season?
I think we'll still see offenses rule the day in the first month of the season in September, but I think we'll see defenses pick it up a little quicker. And I do think there might be a bit of an advantage to be gained if in the first 2 months of the season you try to lean more heavily on teams that have better defenses than offense, and you try to fade and bet against teams that lean a little more heavily on offense than defense, because you're trying to predict a bit of a trend reversal this year. So maybe you're a little higher on the Washington football team, a team like that early on, or even the Denver Broncos, but you're a little lower on someone like the Cleveland Browns.
Overall, some kind of step back to normality regarding over-unders. If you look for the over-unders on betting pros, for example, they are not as low as last year, of course, because COVID doesn't have such an impact like last year, less training camp, etc. So is it really like in 2019, after the 2019 season, before COVID, that it's a bit more normalized overall?
Yeah, that's my guess as well, that it should be a little more normalized across the board, and we should expect more normal results. Now, the other thing is the book and the people setting the lines last year were in the same spot as we were. They didn't quite know what to expect. They didn't quite know how to adjust. So there is a chance you got lucky and maybe picked up some things last year that aren't going to be as easy to pick up on and gain an advantage over the book this year, because it is normalized and the book is back to being able to rule the day and having a large sample size of knowing how these things work, you know.
What are some strategies you're planning to write this year, considering early over-unders or more like direct bets, betting teams, like you said, focus on teams with better defenses? Have you already planned where you start the season off?
I haven't. So there's a few different ways to answer this question. I'm looking already at my favorite kind of regression progression candidates, how that applies to the week one lines, and I've already found some interesting player futures. And I think my strategy with that has become where it looks to me like the market on player futures, we are seeing across the board second year players being undervalued. Whether it's Chase Young, Justin Herbert, Denzel Mims, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, I think we're going a little too much off of last year's numbers, and we're not accounting for enough. This is the only rookie class in history to not have rookie mini camps, to not have training camps, to not have, to potentially have a lot of their training camp having to do digitally or shut down, no preseason, and really having to kind of learn on the fly, learn on the job during the season. So I think it'd be fair, given those circumstances, to expect some of those young players to make greater jump in year two than we saw in year one. I'm also, in particular, with those second year players, I'm noticing less of an adjustment for the extra regular season game. So that's another advantage you can have. And we can get into some of my regression progression candidates, but those are the two things I'm looking now. As far as early strategies, I am still accounting for offense to dominate. I am going to count for home field advantage to be back. And so, I use one of my favorite things was betting on a home underdog. So I'm going to get back to betting home underdogs more. That's not, last year was kind of the year of the road favorite. Last year was also the year of the public better. So usually the public leans one way and it tells you like, oh, this line's too good to be true. Like, I don't know, maybe the public loves Dallas too much, or they love the Steelers too much and they're overrating that their schedule sucked in a 12-0 season. Stuff like that. Miami is always a team that the public seems to be heavy on. But last year, the public was winning a lot. Maybe this year, that trend reverses, because, again, it's what Simon and I were just talking about, a little more adjustment from the book and the book being more prepared. But in general, my overarching strategy, and I don't know how possible this is with the, your betting options overseas right now, but I did find in other sports, I think in March, right before in March, yeah. So basketball, hockey was going on. We really went on this incredible run with my show where our record's like 330 and 210 right now.
Okay.
And that was betting on everything but football. And I told you, football was just like right around 500. What we found in these other sports where they play even more games than football is spreads, money lines, totals. can be very deceiving. They can be, they're kind of coin flip propositions because the book, this is what they know best. And these are the lines that are most well set. And these are also, you're accounting on 4 quarters of 22 players plus special teams. It's a lot more factors. Where we're finding is more consistent is bets on individual players and stuff like that. So this year I am making a huge point of betting a lot more player props, and trying to focus on bets other than simply spreads, money lines, and over-unders.
Okay, that's great. One point in terms of preseason, preseason betting. Today, someone sent me a tweet which said if you start betting on preseason football, you need to seek help and found some guideline. But looking at coaching records before betting in preseason, looking which coach has the intent on winning,
absolutely,
that this is one way to win easy money and has proven over the last few years to be great.
Well, I mean, we're dancing around a lot of factors that all come down to the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
NFL betting is the most bet on thing in the US, and it's one of the most bet on things in the world, and the most bet on things in football are what I was just talking about. So those are the things where your margins are decreased the most. And it's why we've had this great run not betting on football, because those are sports that are less known and something. But one way to gain an advantage in football is betting on games that less people bet on and that the book is less prepared. For example, the preseason. And you're exactly right. Coaching record is a big factor in this. For example, I gave out the Patriots this week because Belichick's like 10 games over 500. Tomlin's another guy that always wins a decent amount in the preseason. And I've been looking at over-unders. I found this great stat from Action Network. Since 2004, unders in the preseason are hitting at 51.8%. Any over-under. Now, unders on a total of 37 or higher are hitting at a 56.7% rate, while unders set at 36.5 and below are 45.4. So this essentially tells you if you see the over set at 37 or higher, take the under. If you see it set at 36.5 or lower, take the over. The Broncos yesterday, highest scoring game in the preseason, that was set at 34.5. I look at it at halftime, they've adjusted the line at 42, and I think only 6 points were scored. So the over 34.5 hit, but had you adjusted and then jumped in at 42.5 because that's way too high and things were going to level out, you could have middled that and won big. So that's definitely one thing to look at for the preseason, where these totals are incredibly low, but it's because, the offense, they're not creative. It's backups playing most of the time. The play calling, just they're hiding their good stuff for the games that matter. So defenses can just kind of dominate against backups, and scores are low, and that's an easy trend to follow, for example, in preseason. So yeah, preseason's great.
Let's look at week 1 this year.
Yes.
I myself always have some teams I like to rely on over the season. Always like the Chiefs, money lines, always one bet you can put into a parlay and be quite successful with it. Mm-hmm. Are there some stay away teams this year for you?
That's a good question. There, more so than a stay away, there are teams that my numbers like that I just want to wait and see. And it's because the numbers just account for statistics. They can account for outside factor like coaching changes, quarterback changes, stuff like that. So I've got my eye on Jacksonville, and I've got my eye on New Orleans. And I've got my eye on the Chargers too, who a lot of teams. So, my numbers say to fade the Chargers in Jacksonville and to really ride New Orleans. I want to see how they look early on before I jump full aboard on that, you know.
Then let's have a look at week one. Are there any games who are standing out for you? For me, it's of course Monday Night Football, I believe. Ravens at Raiders. Ravens are only 4.5 favorite over there. And I believe that the imbalance between those teams is much greater this year. Just one example. Do you have any games that stand out for you?
Yeah, my numbers have that exactly right. You know, with a 3 point home field advantage for the Raiders, the Ravens, who are given as an 11, their win totals at 11. I'm sorry, the Ravens win totals at 11. Yes, the Raiders is at 7. That would be an 8 point difference in a neutral field for Baltimore if you just handicap that for the home team advantage. You know, that's basically evened out right there. I think what really stands out to me just right off the bat is the football team hosting the Chargers. The Chargers are 1 point favorites there. You know, these are last year, Washington won 8 games, the Chargers won 7. My numbers show that both teams performed at that right rate. The Chargers have a 9.5 win total on the season. Washington has an 8.5. I would probably flip that and say they're about even right now, and that the football team should probably just be a 3 point favorite. You know, same as like Tennessee against Arizona, where it's two evenly matched teams. You just give the 3 points to the home team. So Washington as a home dog, very intrigued by that. Um, Seattle on the road is always tricky, but boy, the Colts with all the injuries they've had, being just a 1 point underdog at home feels.
Quarterback uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, no Carson Wentz. It's no Quentin Nelson. I don't know. I'm also like skeptical. As much as I'm high on all the second year players, I don't know that Jonathan Taylor is really going to have a breakout year. I'm kind of skeptical about the Colts, and the Seahawks are one of those teams that's going to probably perform better early in the season than they are later, just because that offense is so hard to stop when your defense isn't totally dialed in. So I kind of like that one.
You've talked about Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, like how it's hard to predict those lines. What about Jets at Panthers? I think that's pretty hard to really evaluate before we've really seen something, because Panthers new quarterback, new coach, Jets new coach, new quarterback. How do you even evaluate this kind of game, or is it just stay away for you too?
Yeah, Jacksonville's a team that I am, you know, I'm a big Trevor Lawrence guy, as you guys know. I also think Urban Meyer, like new coaches can have kind of a unique advantage, especially offensive coaches, because there's no game planning that can be done early on. And then, yeah, Carolina's tougher for me to figure out because I really like their depth. I've always liked Darnold, and they were half decent last year.
Mhm.
But no, Carolina at home 4.5. I would stand by that because they were at least, a team that performed at the level of a 6.5 win team last year, even though they only won 5, and the Jets performed as a 2 win team. So with the home field advantage, they should be more than 4.5 point favorites. But it's so hard to know because the Jets could make a huge jump in defense. The talent's always been there, and with Robert Saleh, but I don't know. I'm terrified by that Jets offense. Terrified.
Maybe stick to those teams where we know what we get early in the season and go from there. You said last year about week 6, everything normalized and continued until the end, correct?
Yeah, everything started to normalize a bit more. But then there was constant adjusting for the injuries and COVID absences, and then that was kind of making the numbers fluky. So, yes, it normalized, but I never quite felt like we got on a roll the way we have in years past.
Do you emphasize games that are played in prime time. For example, like we have the Monday Night Football I already mentioned, and also Sunday Night Football, Bears at Rams. Is it kind of because they are quite alone in terms of there is no other games played? You have to have a look at just one game, can prepare maybe a little bit better for that. Do you approach those games differently than maybe a full Sunday of NFL football?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do, because it's exactly what you said. You're focused to kind of dial in on just one game and figure that out, and really look at all the angles rather than just finding what games you like and dialing in that way. And so I do think we actually found a little more success on some of those primetime games last year than we did just picking games all of Sunday. But then, so that's probably more true with Sunday night and Monday night. It's less true with Thursday night. That's just a little more unpredictable because there's always less preparation and what have you. And we've seen some interesting trends on Thursday night football.
I believe we are prepared for week one, and we'll have a look at some futures. And let's start off with the big one, the Super Bowl. Are there any teams, any bet which have a higher value than others, for example, this year?
Boy, I hate it, but Pittsburgh's number is set at 8.5, and
to win the Super Bowl.
No, to just 8.5 regular season wins.
Okay.
This is a team that won 12 last year despite the late season collapse. I know they've lost some pieces on defense, and that offense was just so limited once it actually got figured out because Big Ben can't move. So the offense is just forced to be shotgun standard the entire time, and we'll see how much Najee Harris can impact that. But a team like that with Mike Tomlin set at 8.5 wins in a 17 game season, I think of all the teams, that's the team I probably feel best about taking an over on their regular season win total.
Okay, that's quite interesting because I've been slaying Simon for his optimism towards the Steelers.
Yep. Everybody.
Yes, everybody is. And for me, I believe they will be right around this this margin because I have no trust at all in the offense of the Steelers. It's kind of fishy for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent, though. There is a lot of talent on that offense at wide receiver. They've figured out ways to make it work on the offensive line, and yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I mean, it feels very much like how skeptical I was about the Buccaneers coming into last year, and that was a team that the numbers liked.
Yeah. And let's go back to Super Bowl. Any favorites in your opinion? Like Chiefs are always quite favorite. Plus 500 are the current odds for me here. Do you have any teams like dark horse picks, for example, Giants 49ers, or even Browns or Ravens? Maybe go even higher in terms of odds, like, for example, Chargers with a run, or I don't know, maybe the Saints who will have some input if Jameis Winston works great. Anyone standing out there for you?
Yeah, it's probably the Saints.
Okay.
As
Depending
far
on
as like
Winston.
getting crazy with it. I'm a huge believer in Sean Payton. That's a team that's really built their offense around the potent O-line, which is going to be huge for a veteran play caller and first-time quarterback in that scheme. But remember, it's a whoever the quarterback is, they've at least been in this scheme for over a year. They will have some decent weapons to go to, and that's a defense with a lot of talent and one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. And it's a fairly wide open division. And, then if they were to get home field advantage for a couple rounds in the playoffs, anything's possible. So yeah, if I were to take a long shot, that would be where I'd start.
I really love the Titans for a long shot. For Super Bowl, the Saints are plus 3,000,
Yep.
and the Titans are only plus 2,800. So basically the same here. The only thing that's going to change really is an improvement in the defense.
Yep.
That's possible, especially because we saw the Titans last year, the Titans defense, which was so bad. And they really did a lot of things, not roster wise, but because they performed so poorly last year, there might be a step up which can take them to the Super Bowl, because last year it wasn't so far away.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Titans. I'm a believer in Vrabel. I'm a believer in that backfield. I like their talent at wide receiver, certainly. And, if Taylor Lewan's healthy, I think the O-line's pretty good. They're definitely one of those offense-first teams who, if you're an offense-first team, you get hot against the Ravens, Bills, Chiefs. You're in it with anyone in the AFC, honestly. And I've actually got them even odds as the Saints, Simon. So I got them both at plus 3,000 here on my book, which is nice. Yeah, my only concern with them is how battle tested are they to actually get through the playoffs? And they've just done such a cruddy job drafting the last couple of years. I wonder if their depth is going to be impacted by that. But I mean, you can't go wrong with the Titans. That's a team that I think the public maybe hasn't adjusted their views, but with Colts and Texans having such disastrous off seasons, that they could be a really nice bet, especially to win the division, for example.
Yeah, for me it's always important to have a look at quarterback, because in the playoffs you have to rely on your quarterback, and he has to keep or carry you throughout the tournament, which brings me to the question, in terms of Saints, which one would you prefer if you had to bet on the Saints as Super Bowl champion, Winston or Hill?
Winston, probably, as the starter, but I think the best version of the Saints is some sort of mix similar to the Niners under Harbaugh, where you had Kaepernick coming in and having some select packages and stuff like that, but Alex Smith was the starter. I think you can still do that with Taysom Hill the way they have the last couple years, just to keep that offense diversified,
Okay. In terms of division winners, I always find this one is the most approachable for me, because predicting the Super Bowl is like predicting what will happen in the season with all the injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
But predicting division winner is much more easier from my point of view.
Yep.
And there are always some divisions like the AFC South this year, the AFC North this year, highly competitive, as well as the NFC West, which are kind of stayaways for me because it's so competitive or hard to predict. If you have to choose a division to bet on this year, which would it be, considering value and also probability?
I mean, the South seems like just incredible value. I can't believe the Titans aren't bigger favorite. I've basically got them 1-1 here. And yeah, with the Colts injuries, I just can't expect the Colts to keep performing at this level. The Colts, without drafting a quarterback, have really gambled on their drafts panning out and guys performing at a high level. And unless Pittman and Jonathan Taylor really break out this year, they've had some misses at corner. I'm not sure they're going to be able to keep up with the Titans, who in that division, I don't know, like 5-1, 4-2 should be easy in that division for the Titans, and then you're kind of running away with it. Another line that I think is, it's probably my favorite of all the lines, and it's easy to understand, is a Washington football team at plus 230. Just
no trust in the Cowboys.
I'm concerned about where Dak is at this point. They haven't figured the defense out in over half a decade, really since like Parcells left, I think. And yeah, the offense has a lot of talent, but I worry if this is a situation like we've seen with Dallas in the past, like we've seen with Houston recently, like we've seen with McCarthy in the past at Green Bay, where yeah, the offense is good, but that doesn't really lead to wins. While the football team, I think they're well coached. I think that defensive front is going to be able to carry them for a lot of games. If they start winning, fans will show out, and that'll be a huge advantage for a defensive first team. And Fitzpatrick always at least starts the season off hot. So, and they've got some playmakers on offense. So yeah, I like the football team. I honestly think those lines should be reversed. Their odds should be Dallas's odds, and Dallas's odds should be the football team's odds. And if I can get the Green Bay Packers at anything under 2-1, or yeah, I mean that feels like stealing money in a season like this.
I think it's always great to maybe combine like the Packers, the Chiefs, and even the Bucks. Do you think the difference between Bucks and Saints is not as huge as it's displayed in the odds right now?
No, I don't, because in the regular season, I think they're actually very comparable teams. The defenses are very good and very well coached. I like the Saints' home field advantage a little better. I think the Saints maybe have the slightest edge on the offensive line. Tampa has a huge advantage at quarterback. But, we've seen Brady the last 3-4 years in the regular season. Like, he doesn't look great. He has his moments where he looks pretty average. And we've seen the Saints under Sean Payton be able to get, like, average quarterback play out of anyone, whether it's Drew Brees or Winston or Teddy Bridgewater or Taysom Hill. So I think they're pretty comparable teams. Now, in the playoffs, yeah, I would definitely bet on Tom Brady to be dialed in and game planned and make more plays than Jameis Winston and stay more error free. In the regular season, he's going to have an advantage, but I don't know that we've seen that advantage play out in like a massive way.
Okay. I believe we'll finish it off with individual futures,
Okay,
like
cool.
player props. For example, let's start off with also the big one, the MVP odds. Is there any other possibility that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP this year if everything works out normal?
I mean, it's very like when Michael Jordan was in his prime. You could have just given it to Michael Jordan every year, but often Karl Malone or David Robinson or Charles Barkley would win it because they still had outstanding seasons. I mean, with everything that's set up, I'd keep my eye on Aaron Rodgers for sure. I would keep my eye on Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. And I think if you're looking for a long shot, Matthew Stafford probably feels good.
Okay. And it's an interesting topic. I've heard or read from many people they're expecting him to regress a bit. Are you in that
Stafford.
camp or Allen?
Oh,
because
Josh Allen.
Huge success last year.
Yeah, no, huge success. We'll see how home crowds and another year of preparation can impact him. But I mean, look, maybe the biggest win for any team this offseason, I think, was them being able to keep Brian Daboll. I thought Daboll was guaranteed to be the Chargers' next head coach. That just made too much sense to me for him to just move on to Justin Herbert, become a head coach, take that same playbook and just plug play and do what he did in the East down at the AFC West. So I don't know. I mean, him being able to maintain his same receiving core and be a fourth year in a row in the same scheme, I think that's massive. And some guys just have like huge growth margins, and Josh Allen is one of those guys. So he keeps figuring it out and getting more comfortable. This guy could really be the limit.
Simon and I always like to do a big long shot on MVP. We always bet Aaron Donald to win it.
Nice.
He's right around plus 20,000 right now.
Awesome.
Is there a chance that in the near future defensive player will win it, or are the quarterbacks penciled in for that award for the near future or even longer?
I think it could maybe happen again. The one time it has with Lawrence Taylor, it was just such a different league. It was defense first. He was clearly the best player in the NFL, playing in the best division, where like all four teams were Super Bowl contenders, and they were all kind of defense first, dominated by like great coaches. It's going to be really hard.
Was the last time.
It's going to be really hard because the game has changed so much. But I at least think we could see a serious finalist, like someone who we really think like coming into week 17, like it's going to be between this defender and a quarterback. That I can't see. That I think will happen.
It's even hilarious. Meanwhile, how big you have to be on quarterbacks in the MVP conversation, because I've just looked up. Aaron Donald is in the same category as, for example, we got Marcus Mariota for MVP, same odds.
Wow.
So that's absurd for me, and that maybe accounts for how impossible it is for a defensive player to get an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, even a non-quarterback to get an MVP, like someone like Travis Kelce, or, who going into week 15 was leading the league in receiving yards, something we've never even thought a tight end could do before. We've seen Megatron break records we never thought imaginable. We've even seen like more 2,000-yard rushing seasons come and go and not really get any MVP buzz at all, which that used to be at least enough to get you in the conversation. So it really, sadly, it really has become where the MVP is kind of an award of its own for quarterbacks, and offensive player of the year and defensive player of the year are kind of the awards reserved for the most impactful non-quarterbacks, So it's just a wacky award, the way it's treated nowadays.
Other than MVP, what's your favorite player future to bet on?
I like Chase Young to lead the league in sacks. I think that's very juicy. Oh, like most receiving yards, I think Devontae Adams at plus 900 is very intriguing. Okay. I think that Washington to be the team that leads the league in least points allowed is very juicy.
Okay.
Yep.
I think Zach Wilson to lead the league in interceptions. This is one I talked with our guy Zach Stevens about. We were trying to figure out like who of these guys is gonna stay on the field no matter what, no matter how badly they play.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts probably gets benched if he plays that poorly. Daniel Jones, same thing. Goff, Winston, Fitzmagic, Darnold, kind of all the same thing, right? Yeah. They're all going to get benched. Zach Wilson, they kind of just got to ride it out and try it year one.
Again.
Exactly. Ruin the poor kid before he even gets a chance. So yeah, those are ones I like. And I think like passing touchdowns for Justin Herbert, I see that set at 28.5. And if I'm not mistaken, he had 32 last year. I like the over. I don't know what to tell you. He only played 15 games last year. Now he's going to get 17. Maybe Herbert's interceptions are up and you take over on interceptions if you can find that number. But I just don't see a world where he passes for fewer touchdowns than he did last year with 2 more games.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do a little experiment to finish it off.
Yeah.
I have the common categories like defense player of the year, rookie, offense, defense, and also most receiving yards. You already mentioned Devontae Adams, and most rushing yards here for you, because those are the ones we over here in Germany are able to bet on.
Yes.
And I will put them out to you, and you'll make a quick choice.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Starting off, defense player of the year.
I'm going Chase Young.
Okay. Over Aaron Donald. That's quite interesting. Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I'm very tempted by Patrick Surtain here at the Broncos, but I'm just gonna go Jamin Davis and stick to that Ron Rivera defense.
That must be great odds.
It's
Doesn't it?
Plus 900.
Jamin Davis, yeah, he's actually, I see him as the shortest odds after Micah Parsons, so he's the second favorite.
For me, there's Micah Parsons, JOK, and also Jalen Phillips ahead of him.
There you go. Beautiful value.
Great. Offense Rookie of the Year. Running back, quarterback, wide receiver.
Just stick to Trevor Lawrence.
Sure. Okay.
I'd love to tell you Kyle Pitts, but come on, tight end's never winning that. Najee is going to have a real uphill battle. Justin Fields probably won't play enough. So yeah, let's go Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. Most receiving yards, you're sticking to
Devontae Adams, yeah.
Okay, and the last one, most rushing yards.
Most rushing yards is so hard because the statistician in me thinks like this. That's one of those stats where you always have a new guy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so hard for a running back to sustain success. So I should tell you like Nick Chubb or take a long shot on J.K. Dobbins or Aaron Jones or Joe Mixon. Derrick Henry's just different though. He's built like a tight end. He's built like an edge rusher. So he's been able to sustain success in ways that other running backs just haven't. He's also kind of bucking history because unlike the great running backs of the past, Jamal Lewis, Earl Campbell, guys like that who've run for tons of yards and then it kind of stopped after a while. Those guys, Walter Payton, those guys are running against 8, 9, sometimes 10-man fronts. Mm-hmm. Derrick Henry has the beauty of being, in an era of football where you can pick your spots and you can audible to a run when you've got a nickel formation you're going against or a dime formation. So I think that's allowing him to sustain success a little more, and his team relies on him in ways that no other team relies on their running back except for the Titans.
Yeah.
So
plus that they got Julio Jones.
Well, yeah.
This year too.
Yeah. I mean, how can you not love that receiving core? So yeah, and that should open things up. So I just got to stick with him because he has proven to have durability that is just at another level than the rest of the NFL's run.
Okay, 1 hour always flies by way too quick. But we thank you a lot for giving us a quick overview over the upcoming season. Wishing all of you listening and also you, Andre, incredible luck this year. Maybe even for us, we can compete a little bit better than in the previous season. Do you have some time to plug anything?
No, just if you want to check out DMVR Bets. We're on YouTube every day at 8:30 p.m. You're in Germany. You just find our YouTube channel, DMVR Sports, on there, and we talk all sorts of bets. We're talking more football and college football. And especially for your listeners, I'd say check out our YouTube, always on that YouTube channel. Sunday mornings when the NFL regular season starts, we do an 1.5 hour show. We talk about betting. We talk about fantasy football. We talk about the matchups and stuff. But we also do, drinking challenges, food challenges. We try to have fun. We have a sports bar where we can just enjoy life and have a fun show. So if you're ever looking for something to watch on a pregame show that's a little different from what everyone else does, check that out as well.
Perfect. Simon, one day we have to go to Denver and watch a game at the DMVR bar.
That's fixed. It's sometime in my calendars in the future bucket list.
Gotta do it.
For sure. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll be back next week with another episode. Have a great week and goodbye.
Peace.